to be able to get maps that high resolution with a software that can map smoke, that can map water, that can map ice, that can map things that previously were much harder to map. We can truly implement technology very easily into that public safety sector. And this makes their lives safer.
You're listening to the Drone Radio Show podcast, the show about drones and the people who use them for business, fun, and research. Hosted by Randy Goers.
Hello, everyone. This is Randy Goers, and welcome to the Drone Radio Show podcast, episode 245. What would a mapping software designed for first responders look like? For that question, we turn to Angad Singh, a Pix4D Technical Trainer based in Denver, Colorado. Angad's interest in UAS-based photogrammetry started when he realized he could get incredibly high-resolution data, which would enable his research to make micro-level insights. He has a passion for enabling people to understand the power and limitations of UAS. Angad's research background is in remote sensing and precision agriculture from McGill University in Montreal, Quebec. Now, for much of this year, Angad has been working to get Pix4D React into the hands of first responders. Pix4D React is the fastest 2D mapping software designed for public safety and humanitarian aid professionals. It is intuitive and simple to use, even for people with little or no drone flight or photogrammetry experience. In this edition of the Drone Radio Show, Angad talks about Pix4D React and how it can support first responders and aid workers in increasing situational awareness. But before we hear from Angad, I want to thank those of you who are supporting my funding campaign. Now you have the option of making a one-time donation in any amount by going to droneradioshow.com/donate. Whether it's $1, $100, or much more, you can help defray the cost of production and keep the podcast going and growing. So let's learn how Pix4D React can support the work of first responders with Angad Singh of Pix4D. Let's pick up the interview where I asked Angad to introduce himself.
So I'm Angad Singh. I'm a technical sales engineer with Pix4D based out of Denver, Colorado. And what my primary function at Pix4D is to go out and show people how the technology works, what they can achieve out of Pix4D software solutions, and really how they can implement mapping into their workflows.
Today, we want to talk about a new software recently released by Pix4D called the Pix4D React. First of all, tell us, what is Pix4D React?
Pix4D React, I think, is something really special. It's something that I've been personally working on for a couple months and actually went to extreme lengths to make sure that we could effectively get this software to market. Pix4D React is a fast mapping solution. It takes images from the drone and it turns them into a map as fast as possible. It's actually the fastest commercially available photogrammetry algorithm that's ever been produced. It's a purely desktop-based software that works on computers that folks already have. It doesn't require an expensive or a very powerful computer. And it takes images that have been taken from a drone in a grid mission, and it very quickly turns them into a map directly on the desktop of a laptop in the field that allows you to get a very high-resolution orthomosaic map that can be utilized for a multitude of different applications. However, the software has been designed specifically for public safety. We like to say that it's made for public safety by public safety because we wanted to be able to produce a tool that could really provide a lot of good out there.
When you say it's produced for public safety by public safety, what does that mean?
So Pix4D as a company started in 2012. It's an organic growth company that's grown to 7 offices around the world, 200 people roughly in terms of staff. And it's done this purely based off the sales of our software itself. We're not a VC-funded company. And in that growth and in that development of the company and the commercial validation of our name out there in the market, a lot of that comes from the public safety market. We had a lot of folks in public safety, specifically doing what we call collision reconstruction, that started to adopt Pix4D software. And then I started doing a lot of training and working with those folks very intimately. And I realized that there were a couple things that got in the way of mass proliferation of mapping within the public safety domain. And so what I did was we went and we sat down with our power users in the public safety space. We turned them into beta users. We heard their concerns of what was stopping the implementation, what was getting in the way. And then we internalized those 4 variables, which I can go through, and we designed a product that would be able to circumvent all of the problems, essentially make it much easier for folks to adopt this technology and market it directly to public safety. So when I say by public safety, for public safety, we've literally taken into account a lot of the initial conversations that we've had with mapping super users in the public safety realm to build this software.
I'm interested in finding out what were the 4 key variables that the testers or the public safety people told you needed to solve.
So when I go ahead and I would do these trainings, so about 3 years ago, I would arrive on site at a police department and I would teach a 16-hour curriculum on how to utilize Pix4D. That's the first problem, that it took too long to learn. Pix4D Mapper, which is our flagship solution that's enabled the name of Pix4D to have that weight that it does today, is all based off the sales of Pix4D Mapper. But Pix4D Mapper, being a very high-end scientific software, it has a lot of buttons, it has a lot of screens, it has a lot of menus. So that's the first thing. The software has to be easy to learn. It has to be simple. And so we made Pix4D React simple. The second thing was I would show up to police departments and they would have their Panasonic Toughbooks or the department-issued computers that didn't have special graphics cards, that didn't have very fast processors. And so that's the second concern, that they needed powerful computers to really make mapping work. And so we wanted to build a tool that did not need powerful computers. And then the third was it took a lot of time to process, right? It takes a lot of time to learn. You needed a powerful computer. And those 2 factors are because it takes so long to process and there's so much computation that's happening in that background. So that third factor is that it had to be really fast. And then the fourth factor is the price point. So we wanted to build a software that was really, really fast, that worked on a desktop computer without the cloud, that was really simple to use, that worked on the computers they already have and had a low price point. And I think we hit all of those marks with Pix4D React, and we're able to produce what I consider to be a really, really beautiful software package.
Does Pix4D React require the Pix4D mapper, or does it operate independently of it?
It operates independently. Pix4D React is a standalone product sold by Pix4D and our resellers. It's designed to work with the majority of commercially available drones out there. So we also took a survey of what are the drones police departments actually have, and we made sure that it works with those ones first. And then we can add more camera models as we move on. But the way that Pix4D React works is it needs to know what camera you're using when you're flying these missions. Pix4D Mapper doesn't. Pix4D Mapper, you could use any camera under the sun. But Pix4D React, it works with drones, it works with straight down nadir imagery, and it produces the map faster than you can fly the grid mission.
I know it's a new software, but are there any case studies you can talk about or examples of how it's actually been used in the field?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was one of the really powerful things going into it, is that when we built this tool, we didn't focus on features. We didn't focus on the algorithms and how to make them super awesome. We first looked at how are folks going to use it and then build backwards. And so one of the most powerful applications that I can think of Pix4D React being used for is humanitarian aid and disaster response. So imagine the island of the Bahamas after Dorian. It's been a big storm. Pix4D React has been used to map the island of the Bahamas almost every day since the storm hit by different parties that have been on site. They arrive on site, they quickly put a drone in the air, and they can map a large expanse of the island at whatever altitude they want to fly with a straight down nadir image, which means that the image is looking straight down at the ground. They can also get away with using less overlap than with previous mapping softwares. And so they can fly more area with less images because they can get away with less overlap. The drone lands, they take the SD card out of the drone, they put it into the computer, they process on Pix4D React, and in a matter of minutes, they have that high-resolution orthomosaic. Then there's a PDF report that they can export, and they can send this PDF report to decision makers. So for example, in the Bahamas, the Port Authority needed to know how many roofs had been damaged, how many tarps had been put on those roofs, and then when do we start rebuilding the efforts? Can we see how many roofs have started to have that rebuilding effort put into place? And so that's a test study where here we're making a map as fast as possible and very quickly able to provide that in an emailed PDF report to a decision maker so that they can understand what's happening on the ground. I think another really powerful application that we've seen Pix4D React used for is with controlled burns for wildfires. So for example, in the state of Texas, a lot of the fire departments will do controlled burns where they'll go out and they'll burn a section of land to remove the dead vegetation. to remove what we consider to be fuel so that we don't get, massive, very powerful wildfires. And so traditionally, the decision maker, whether it be the captain or the media, well, the media is not a decision maker, but they want to know the information of how many acres were actually burned. That's a question that they get a lot. So typically what the firefighters will do is they'll do the controlled burn, and then they'll walk around the perimeter of that burn with a data collector or GPS in their hand. And then they can see exactly what the area was based on what they walked. But that can take a couple of hours. Now, with Pix4D React, they can fly the drone at a high altitude at 400 feet. So for example, let's take a real life example of a controlled burn that happened just outside of Austin, Texas. So here we have the firefighter went ahead and had to find out the answer of how many acres were burned. This particular burn was 27 acres. It took the gentleman, the lieutenant who walked the entire perimeter of that area, 3 hours with a data collector in their hand. So it took them 3 hours to find out that the answer was 27 acres were burned. With a drone, they flew a Phantom 4 Pro at 400 feet, and it took about 10 minutes to fly that mission. The drone landed, it returned to home. They took the SD card out, they put it into a computer. They processed the map in about 4 minutes. So if it took 10 minutes to fly the mission, it took 4 minutes to process it. And then it took about 30 seconds to draw a polygon around the extent of the perimeter and get that answer of how many acres were actually burned. And so there, I think that's real innovation. Here, a process that previously took 3 hours to find out exactly how many acres were burned, now we've gone ahead and we've made that into just a matter of minutes. In less than 20 minutes, that answer was had, whereas previously it took 3 hours.
What type of training or what does it take for someone who's not familiar with it to be able to get on it and use it?
So I was at a public safety show in Columbus, Ohio, the Airborne Public Safety Association. I took a gentleman in the crowd who was a state trooper with Oklahoma who had never used Pix4D React before. We took his department-issued computer. So the computer that was issued by the police department, by the Oklahoma State Patrol, and I had the gentleman stand on the podium and had never touched the software before. We downloaded it onto his computer, and I had him do the live demo in front of an audience of about 40 folks, and he'd never touched it before. Pix4D React is so simple to use. It has a very intuitive design. So when I think of technology, I think of the most, the best piece of technology in the world is a hammer. Anybody can pick up a hammer. Even a Neanderthal could pick up a hammer and know that you just have to hit something with it and you're applying some force or pressure. That's a beautiful tool. That's intuitive. It's the same thing within technology world. Probably the best piece of technology out there is Google, because nobody ever Googles how to Google something. They just know. At this point in society, everybody knows that Google has a search bar. You type in your question, you get an answer. In the software world, we have to strive for that. We have to strive to make a tool that's so simple it doesn't require a lot of training. With Pix4D React, it takes 3 buttons to get to process your map. And then there's a big button on the top right that says export. There's big buttons on the left-hand side that say measure or GPS coordinate. So I think that within 30 minutes or 40 minutes, almost anybody out there can pick up this tool and be confident enough to use it in an operation.
Does it require that the SD card be inserted in the computer or provide for live streaming from the drone?
No, at this point, we don't do any live streaming. We don't rely on the cloud. We don't require internet connection, because that was also one of those requirements that this has to be desktop based. This has to work in a situation where they don't have the internet or they cannot rely on that telemetry to get the images from the drone to the computer. So the drone lands, you take the SD card out of the drone, you put those images onto the computer, which does mean, of course, that you have to have an SD card reader. That's one logistical barrier today, but, hopefully in time, it gets better. But I don't think that's such a big logistical hurdle, given that every person that has a drone typically has that SD card reader so that they can take the SD card out and put the images onto a computer.
What is it about the software that you want to make sure people know? I
want people to know that this is really simple. I want people to know that they can adopt this technology and they can make maps. And I want folks to know that technology exists and we're here to help. So that if you ever wanted help with the software, if you ever, you wanted an online demo or training, we are out there to help with that process. When we built this product, it comes from it's that feel-good use case, right? I mean, Pix4D, we've shown that we can make money. We've shown that we can become a company that that does really cool stuff and makes really top end, algorithms and is really, trying to remain on the top of the mountain when it comes to drone mapping. But with Pix4D React, the goal is not to make money. The goal is to get mass proliferation of mapping so that every department that has a drone also has a copy of Pix4D React.
We've been focusing primarily on emergency response and the need for quick mapping solutions. But are there applications that don't require real-time data where you feel Pix4D React will still provide value?
I think that this ties into one of the fundamental limitations of photogrammetry. And that's that with photogrammetry, a lot of times you cannot reconstruct water, you cannot reconstruct snow, and you cannot reconstruct ice. By reconstruct, I mean get the images to turn it into a map. And that's because water tends to be the same color. It's very boring. It's very homogeneous. It's very reflective so that the sun bounces off it at different angles and the image isn't always great. And so because of that, we'd have trouble mapping water. One of the most amazing things about Pix4D React is that it maps water. I mapped a water fountain with water jets coming out of it last week, and it looks perfect in the map, in the orthomosaic. And I did that live demo, producing the map over the fountain in front of a crowd of about 60, 70 people. And a lot of those folks were really good at mapping, and they were blown away because it maps water. And I think that's something where we can start to think of applications that we haven't before. For example, in the academic world, if folks want to do studies on where's the shoreline at different times of the day and how do you exactly measure that, here you can get an exact map of the entirety of the shoreline in a really high resolution orthomosaic because we can map that water so well. And that's not something you could do before.
As a city planner, I could see how this could open the door to a variety of ways of looking at flooding, climate change, or severe weather events.
Absolutely. I think, looking into flooding, looking into snow studies, looking into where's the snow melting and where's it going, swift water rescue for fire and rescue folks. There's a lot of applications where, water, we're called the blue planet, And before, photogrammetry didn't work with water, and now it does with Pix4D React, and I think that's amazing.
Is there anything about the software that we missed that we should talk about?
No, it's a really simple tool. It's a really low-cost, simple tool that's easy to use. You just load in all the images, you say start processing. That's a 3-button process to get from import images, choose your output file, import the images, press start processing, and then if you're interested in anything in the map, you can hit the GPS tag and you can click on a feature and it tells you exactly what that GPS coordinate is. If you want to make a measurement or a line, you can make those lines, you can make those polygon measurements, and then you can export screenshots. So let's say that you really want to show something really zoomed in. You can focus on that one item, zoom in all the way, export it as a JPEG screenshot, and when it exports, it'll have a north arrow as well as a scale bar that shows exactly what the scale is at the zoom level that you chose. And then also the PDF report, it allows you to export your annotations as well as show all of those annotations zoomed in a bit, one by one, further down the page. So you get a lot of really features that are designed for making maps quickly, but also sharing them very simply, because anybody can open up a PDF document on their phone. And if you have an incident and you have a multitude of different teams that are coming into that incident, someone can very quickly map it. They can go ahead and email those PDF reports, and now everybody's looking at the exact same map, and everybody's looking at precisely the same thing in the same way. And that's really important, enabling that communication between different teams and different parties.
Has the reality of the software met the expectations that you had when you began listening to the public safety responders?
Absolutely. When I started off the podcast, I said, we went to a lot of lengths to make sure the go-to-market went smoothly for this. I literally moved out of my apartment in San Francisco and went on the road full-time over the last 4 months, showing this to different departments, different humanitarian aid organizations, different government entities, different private response groups, insurance agencies, etc., over the last 4 months, almost every single day. Because that's how, powerfully I really feel that this is a tool that's going to do a lot of good. To be able to get maps that high resolution with a software that can map smoke, that can map water, that can map ice, that can map things that previously were much harder to map. Here we're finally getting a tool where it's like, we can truly implement technology very easily into that public safety sector. And this makes their lives safer. I mean, to make public safety safer, that for me is something that I feel really good about, you know? And the best thing is, because I've done so much travel and I've shown it off to so many different agencies and folks, we're always getting that feedback. And we're turning that feedback into features for the software. But also, I'm always asking them the question, hey, this is a tool. Can you think of a situation where this tool would have been useful? And you can see that light bulb go off in their eyes, and you can see them say, yeah, I remember this situation where this map would have been so helpful, or I did this warrant delivery and it was a particularly dangerous warrant delivery, and it would have been really nice to have a map of the property so I knew exactly how far away the exit in the back was from the back door. So these little things that we're starting to think about, because now we can have that data. Imagine you're just running security for an event, for like a music festival or a town fair. Now you know exactly where every single fence post is going to line up and what the exact distance from that fence post to the next trash can is. And all of these little tiny questions in your head can get answered with a map. You know, a lot of times folks don't realize how powerful mapping is. And when you show it to them and you explain it to them in their own language, they really say, wow, this is something that we can use every day.
And my final question, Angad, what message would you like to leave regarding Pix4D React and its role in supporting public safety or other users?
Just try it out. I mean, really. I think that everybody can think of a situation in their own shoes where this is a tool that could have been useful, right? I mean, there's so many powerful technologies out there. They all blend together at the end of the day. But to operationalize something, to actually utilize in the field, I think that's powerful. And so I want people to go out there and use it. You get a 30-day free trial. This costs $39 a month, or you can own it forever with no maintenance package for $990. That's priced for every department in the country to be able to get their hands on it, as well as made available on the internet so that you can download that 30-day trial and utilize it in case of a disaster. With the tornadoes that just went through Dallas about 2 weeks ago, this was used to map out a lot of that damage and clear areas so that folks could really use it. And I think that's the strongest message. Go out there and actually use it. If you have a drone, put it in the air and make a map and see how useful that is.
That's it for episode 245 of the Drone Radio Show. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Angad Singh of Pix4D. I want to thank Angad for taking the time to speak with me. If you want to learn more about Pix4D React or want to connect with Angad, check out the webpage at pix4d.com. If you like the Drone Radio Show, please consider supporting the podcast with a small donation. The content is always free, but for as little as $1, you can help defray the cost of production. To donate, go to droneradioshow.com/donate. And thanks for listening. Your support means a lot to me, and I hope you'll listen to more episodes of the Drone Radio Show podcast to hear how others are using drones for business, fun, and research. For the Drone Radio Show, I'm Randy Gores.
This has been the Drone Radio Show podcast. More information on today's show can be found on our website at www.droneradioshow.com. If you're using drone technology for business, fun, or research and would like to share your experience on the show, please visit our website and fill out a guest appearance application. And don't forget to follow us on your favorite social media channels.